You're listening to Cannonball Mindset, a podcast dedicated to helping people achieve the most out of their personal and professional lives. The Cannonball Mindset challenges you to step out of your comfort zone and lean into the possibility of having a life of abundance. Disruptors, innovators, and groundbreakers are all welcome. Let's get into the show.
Good morning. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Anybody that's joined in, Johnny, thanks for being so nimble here. That was the craziest thing. So Johnny and I got on this live broadcast about 30 minutes ago. And of course, the network that we use was not cooperating. So then we're like, all right, what do we do? So cancellation is not an option. Postponing was not an option. So we said, all right, well, let's try Zoom Live. And I've seen Zoom Lives. I've never done one. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see if anybody is able to get it. But thanks for coming on. I'm sitting here with Johnny Quinn. I was trying to think of like a way to introduce you, but you're like your bio, your resume is like 47 pages long. It would take. So let me get here's the ones I got. So former Olympian, and these are not in the chronological order, but former Olympian, former NFL player, entrepreneur, best-selling author, father, husband, and I'm sure you make cupcakes too. I don't know.
There you go. Perfect. I love it.
like I have like three things. Like my resume can fit on my business card. You got like a War and Peace book. So thanks for coming on. I'm really excited. I've heard you in a lot of your talks. I went back and did a lot of research. We have a lot of mutual friends. Chris Hartley is a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of yours. So I'm really excited that we were able to connect. And what a weird time to connect, right? To be able to, under these conditions of quarantine. It's just weird. And I want to get your take on that. I want to get your take on, as a former Olympian, the Olympics being postponed and what that does to the mindset of an Olympian. But let's get started. Tell the guests a little bit about yourself, and again, your resume speaks for itself, but kind of the highlights.
Yeah. And I thought, Chad, you did a great job on recapping that. So I competed in the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, in the sport of bobsled. And when you grow up in Texas, there's not a lot of bobsledders. And so I made that transition after professional football. I had an interesting pro football career. I kept getting cut and knew I still had something left in the tank. And so pivoted to bobsled and became a U.S. Olympian. And so since retiring from sport, I've gotten to entrepreneurship. I own two businesses. I own a property and casualty business in the state of Texas. And then I also am a keynote speaker. I travel the country. Did 72 events last year. And I've been doing that full time. So a lot of action. And you mentioned husband, father. My wife and I, we've got a 1.5-year-old little girl. And so life is good. And Chad, as you know, we're all experiencing this temporary new normal right now, which is interesting.
It's crazy. And I want to get back to so you were in college, you were a track athlete.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Football player. And then you're like, all right, now I'm going to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
And the idea of, all right, how do I get to the NFL? And most people think, all right, well, I'm playing in college and now I get to play in the NFL. It's just kind of this smooth ride, but it wasn't that for you. And at some point, like you lost, I think you said you lost $2.5 million in contract money.
Right.
You got injured. Tell us about how you persevere through that. Like take us from, hey, you know what? I'm leaving college. I'm going to play in the NFL, and your eyes are big, ready to go. And then what happens?
Yeah. When I left North Texas, things went very well, Chad. I left as the school's all-time leading receiver. We went to 3 bowl games. And so as I'm getting ready for the NFL draft, the agency that represented me at the time, everybody's excited. I'm of all the receivers coming out, I'm in the top 10 in career receptions, career yards, career touchdowns. And so you're right. You think it's this kind of linear progression to, hey, I had success in college. Now I'm going to have an opportunity in the NFL. And Chad, what was so interesting, and here's when I knew it was going to be a tough road. When the NFL draft came, 35 wide receivers were drafted And I was not one of them. And see, at that point, I was confused because I was told, and you hear this in sport and business across the world, I was told if you produce, you get rewarded, right? In sport and business, doesn't matter if whoever produces gets rewarded. And that did not happen. And so I was so confused when I got into the NFL, not getting drafted, because I had the production that every team was looking for. Right. And so, I signed an undrafted free agent contract deal with the Buffalo Bills in 2007. And I remember getting to Buffalo, getting all my NFL gear. I mean, to see my name in an NFL locker room, Chad, it was, unbelievable, right? Yeah, his dreams finally come true. And 3 days into OTAs, off-season training activities, I pull my torn hamstring. And Chad, I ran 4 years of Division I college track, never had a hamstring. But day 3 into this childhood dream coming true, a hamstring injury. And if the listeners know what the NFL stands for, not for long.
I never heard that.
Boy, yeah, they had me on a flight back to Texas so quick I was out of there. But that was actually the first time, Chad, that somebody sat me down, they looked me in the eyes, and they said, Johnny, you're not good enough. Right? We're not going to keep you around. We're not going to let you rehabilitate your hamstring. As a matter of fact, today we are cutting you.
Ooh.
Contract gone. So think about this. I'm 22 years old, fresh out of school. I signed a 3-year deal with the Bills. It's an undrafted deal, which was pretty standard at the time. $1.2 million for that deal. Gone.
Oh.
And I didn't know how to handle that because I've always been good at football to this point.
Yeah.
And that was the first, major hurdle of something that was taken away in a sport that I've relatively been good at. Right. Yeah. So, I get healthy. My agent calls. I go, he said, hey, I got a team for you. They're interested. And he sends me to the Green Bay Packers, and they picked me up in 2008. And so, and here's what's interesting, Chad. And I think we all do this. When something doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, you evaluate, you look back and say, okay, here's what I could have done different, or if I get another opportunity, here's what I'm going to do. And so when I stepped on, into the Green Bay Packers property, facility, locker room, I had that already in my brain that, okay, I know what happened in Buffalo. We're not going to do that again. I know where I'm going to improve. So things were going well in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And here I am. I get selected as off-season performer of the week. We get into the preseason. I have my first NFL reception on Monday Night Football. Right? In Lambeau Field. It's unbelievable. And then 3 weeks later, get this, Chad, they cut me and send me home. So you want to talk about an emotional roller coaster? I mean, I was on the top of my game. Monday Night Football, Lambeau Field, first NFL reception. 3 weeks later, hey, Johnny, sorry, but we're cutting you.
Mm.
And that's the one that really hurt because, I could paint a story with Buffalo. Well, I got injured. I had a hamstring. Didn't really have a chance to showcase my skills. Green Bay was completely different.
Yeah.
I played in 4 preseason games. I had plenty of opportunity. And here's what I've realized later on in life. Now looking back, I was so frustrated and upset, mad at management. They should have kept me. Here's what I realized. And here's where I've grown. I realized that I had an opportunity and I didn't make enough plays. I should have made more plays. And when I owned that, doesn't matter if it's 90% of the pie, 10, it doesn't matter.
Right.
When I owned that, I realized that now I'm in control, so to speak, of my actions.
Yeah.
And that served me so well because then I go to the Canadian Football League. It's only a matter of time before we get back. My agent gets me back on track. And in Canada, Chad, I blow out my knee, torn ACL.
Ugh.
Right. And so at that point I get cut again. So here I am 26 years old, and in pro football, it doesn't say, in pro football, 26 years old, 3 cuts, a blown out knee. I mean, you're damaged goods.
Yeah, right.
That's what you are.
Yeah, you're labeled at that point.
Yeah, you're labeled, and all the opportunities dry up. I mean, you want to talk about an empty well? Nothing. And so at that point, some things started to line up. My mom had a coworker that bobsledded back in the day, and my agent at the time, he represented a bobsledder back in the day. And here's the funny thing: they look for former football guys with a track background. So here I am, like not knowing, playing Texas high school football, Division I college football, running track in college, that I had the mold for a bobsledder, right? And so I started bobsledding in 2010, and Chad, in 2014, I became a United States Olympian.
So let me just get this timeline right? You get drafted, you go to the Bills.
Yep.
Right? Go to the Bills. You don't get drafted, you go to the Bills. Right? And you get hurt. You're like, all right, see you later, gone. Then you're like, all right, you rehab, you do what you have to do. You get drafted by the Packers. You play for the Packers. You catch your NFL pass. Then they cut you. Then you're like, all right, now I'm going to go to Canadian Football League. Football League.
Yeah.
You get hurt, and well, okay, I'll be a bobsledder. I'll be an
just
Olympian
a natural
bobsledder.
transition, right? Yeah,
Like, how many episodes of Cool Running did you watch to to get you? Because meanwhile, you're from Texas.
Right. You'd be surprised. I always get, are you on the Jamaican team? And that movie did wonders for bobsled. It really put bobsledding on the map. And I'm like, no, I'm American. I'm on the U.S. team. But they in the Olympics, the Jamaican team is definitely a fan favorite. Yeah.
So let me get this. So at what point did you realize, all right, football, after you get hurt in the Canadian Football League, was there any point that you say, all right, well, I'm 26 years old and maybe the professional athlete isn't for me. Maybe I need to become a business guy, a teacher, something. At what point do you finally say, was there a point, I should say, that you doubted whether you were a professional athlete anymore or not, whether that time has passed?
That's a great question. I remember that season of life was extremely frustrating. And when football dried up, right? Nobody's knocking on the doors. My agent can't get, a whiff for a phone call for me. I understood that door has closed. And so you're right. I had a couple opportunities. Do I start my business career? At the time, I thought maybe I'd get involved in coaching, but there was this knack in me that I still had something left in the tank.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to get it because I knew there were no more football opportunities. So what do you do as a football guy with no opportunities? And so I think what's so interesting, and I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I was preparing myself, and I talk about this in a lot of my keynotes, for an unexpected opportunity, Chad, right? Because, again, if you told me growing up in Texas that one day I'd be a bobsledder for the United States of America, I'd say, come on, you're crazy. I live in Texas. We don't have any snow. I play football. Right? I'm going to the NFL.
Yeah.
But looking back now, I was available. I was open. I was I was ready for business on whatever opportunity that would come. And this opportunity of bobsledding showed up from my doorstep. And the fact that I was ready and available for something, I think that what that did is it springboarded me out of frustration into opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. You're being prepared for an unexpected opportunity.
That's right.
So you didn't know when or where the opportunity was going to come, but you were preparing that something was going to come. So it wasn't like you went home, grabbed a bag of Doritos, sat on the couch, and just felt sorry for yourself, and was and stayed in that kind of victim mindset. You're like, something's going to come, and I have to be ready for it when it does.
That's right. I think maybe Andy Andrews said this in one of his books. I love Andy Andrews' content. Is when you don't know what to do, take action. Even if it's not the right action looking back, that's okay, because you're going to learn something in that season of life. And I thought that was brilliant, because you're right. I could have sat back and said, well, I gave it a run. It wasn't for me. I'm going to sit back and eat Doritos or, whatever that is in somebody's life. But instead, I continued to take action, and this unexpected opportunity presented itself, and I was ready for it.
Yeah, I love that. So, what's interesting is, because of the virus that's going on and the pandemic, the Olympics were just postponed. So I don't know what the training is for bobsledding. I've never seen, but I think I've watched bobsledding at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is still.
That's typically the only time people watch, right? Yeah.
Right. I don't know if there's like a professional bobsledding league or anything, but I think it's the only time I watch it. But I'm assuming that you're getting mentally and physically ready for the Olympics doesn't just, it's got to be, whether you're doing bobsledding or swimming or track, I'm sure there's physical and mental conditioning that you have to go through. Is that right? Yeah.
We have a season every year. It goes October through March. It's just every 4 years, the Olympics, that's when everybody tunes in. So, what was so interesting about them moving the Tokyo Games to next year, which was the right call.
Yeah.
Was how late they announced it. Because I remember as facilities and gyms and, the CDC came in and said, no gatherings over 50 and there was no gatherings over 10. I'm thinking, if this was me during 2014, where am I training at?
Yeah. What am I doing, right?
Olympics are 3-4 months away when I need to be getting primed here, and facilities are closing down. Where do you train at? Yeah, so you could definitely tell that's what was a huge rub, and some of the Olympic hopefuls and Olympians that were getting ready for 2020, they spoke out. So that was the right call. I think what's interesting is what it does. It gives your body a year to reset. Where I think it's going to be a struggle is in some of the sports, say gymnastics, where age is crucial. That one's going to hurt. Chad?
Yeah. Do you think, and I haven't read into it enough, but do you think that the people that had qualified for this year automatically go next year, or is there a new qualification process? I'm saying, what do you think? How do you think that should be handled? If I'm a 16-year-old kid that had been preparing for the Olympics, gets chosen on the Olympics, my hopes, my dreams, everything, and now all of a sudden, you have a year break. Well, that gives somebody that's 15 a year to catch up, and saying, how do they handle that, do you think?
So selfishly speaking, if I was named to the Olympic team, I want you to honor that, But what we know about competition in sport and business and life, it doesn't matter. Awards are given to the people who are producing today. And although it is extremely unfortunate, and we're in a rare time in history right now, this is a bullet you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to have to find a way to compete and try to re-earn your spot. That, from a competition standpoint, that is the right call, is to open it back up, and whoever the best performers are, have the best times, the best scores, those are the ones who need to go and represent our country. Yeah, that's a tough. That's a tough.
And it'll be interesting because I was having a conversation with somebody, and I said, I think the physical part of, hey, I've been training. Oh, the race is canceled, or the Olympics are canceled. I got to retrain. I think that's probably an easier part to get over than building yourself up. The Olympics are 3 months away. Olympics are 2 months away. Olympics are canceled. Olympics are 14 months away.
Right. Yeah. All the back and forth.
I got to get my mindset right again. Oh, and now I got to re-compete to even get my spot back.
That's right.
I think there's going to be a lot of Olympic hopefuls that are going to need some real lessons in mindset, which brings me to my next topic with you. And that is, for you, it seems like you went from the physical, obviously, to being an Olympian. You have to have a strong mindset. But right now, you speak a lot. You have a great book called Push, a lot about mindset. And what does that play into somebody's success? Like, people hear it, they talk about it, but how much of that really does play into affecting your success? Yeah,
Chad, great question for us to unpack. I think at face value, here's what we know. Everybody, I don't think we could find an audience member or a listener that would say mindset isn't important. Right. So I think at face value, we all know that. But what I've come to find out is that when adversity strikes, And when adversity hits, whatever that looks like, sport, business, and life right now, when we're in, the quarantine of 2020, when we're in an adverse situation, the people who protect and strengthen their mindsets find a way to get the job done with the current resources available. They find a way. And what I've noticed over, my career through sport and business thus far is that, Chad, what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading has a direct impact on your mindset. And so I would caution everyone, especially when you're in an adverse situation where stress is high, everything is elevated, we have to get crystal clear on the content we're consuming because it's huge. Huge.
Yeah. And which is really tough because right now, the content that you're consuming, that most people are consuming, is being driven by negative thoughts, negative dialogue. It's amazing to me. I turned on a press conference yesterday. I watched one of the president's press conferences yesterday, and I was just watching. I wasn't really listening for his answers. Right. All I was listening for was the tone and the structure of the questions that were asked. Right. So that's it. I didn't care. I didn't care what he said. I didn't care what the doctor said. I wasn't listening for that. Right. I wanted to see if the questions were asked in a positive light, or were there more questions asked about, hey, how we're getting through this and looking ahead, or how many questions were asked looking backwards and what should have been negative. Right. Guess what the split was? It was 85% of the questions were about things that happened in the past. Why didn't we do this? Why should we do this? What would have happened if we could have done this? As opposed to 15% that were asked. And do you think that's symbolic of what we're being hit with every day? It's like people want to find the negative because negative sells. Fear sells. Do you believe that to be true? That we're surrounded by it?
Chad, I think we might have to do a whole new Zoom, Facebook live call on tone, body language, like all that matters. And you're so right. Regardless of the question you're asking, if how you ask it truly matters. So to answer your question, yes, negativity sells. That's what attracts. The media knows that, and they're going to continue to stir things up. Even in how they ask questions, right? Tone and things like that. Here's what I want to say to that. Because I think there's two camps. Let's try to come to the middle. When you're watching, let's say, news right now, because everything is on the news, there's a difference between being informed and being obsessed. I'm not saying let's be ostriches and put our heads in the ground and not know what in the world is going on. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is let's be informed, but if it turns to this obsession, then we're consuming too much of it. And so I think that takes some wisdom to understand tone of voice and question asking can be a form of baiting, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, it's crazy. And I think you said it. I was thinking informed and influenced, and what I mean by that is like, I have to make a conscious decision right now over this next 30 days. I was starting there's a guy on Instagram that I follow. His name's Andy Frisella, right? So, and he has this challenge called 75 Hard. And what it is, it's a mental and physical challenge. And so about a month and a half ago, I decided I was going to do this 75 Hard. And you have to read 10 pages a day from a self-help book, that was one of the easy ones. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to do 2 45-minute workouts every day. One of them has to be outside. Okay. You have to follow a meal plan with no cheats, not one cheat in the 75 days, no alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. So that's challenge. And so
it sounds like you're getting ready for the Olympics here.
You do that for years. Right? Yeah. I'm struggling to do it for 75 days. So, but the idea was that, I planned to do this a month and a half ago. And then this happens, right? So the pandemic happens and we get quarantined. And somebody said, well, Chad, I don't think that the 75 Hard was meant to be done during a pandemic. And for me, it was like, no, this is like the perfect time to do it. This is the perfect time to do it. And one of the things that I'm 17 days in. And one of the things that I didn't account for was just how much negativity can affect being surrounded, to your point, of that negative influences, negative voices, the world is falling apart, everything's doom and gloom, how it can affect your mindset to actually go out and work out, how it can affect your mindset to actually eat healthy, or your mindset to do the things that what this challenge, what we should be doing every day. Does that make sense? You
makes that is so spot on, Chad. And one of the things I think that could help listeners who want to participate in this and protect their mindsets and gauge the input and influence would be, I'm a big fan of, and I got this from Darren Hardy. He wrote a book called The Compound Effect.
Love it. About
controlling your bookends, your morning routine and an evening routine, because during the day, right, and entrepreneurs, business owners, we get pulled in a lot of directions. But if we can kind of set the tone at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, that can almost kind of give us a healthy gauge and run a healthy diagnostic on identifying, okay, how much content am I truly consuming that is affecting my mindset and can structure the day. So I think having a morning routine and evening routine is crucial in this landscape that we're in.
I love that. And you posted something. If you don't follow Johnny on social media, make sure you do that now. Like just click over your phone and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. But one of the things you posted yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago, was just about that, about the morning routine. Yeah. And that, and what's, I think a lot, again, you have to pick who you follow. You said you gotta be really careful in who you surround yourself with, what you read. Right. And so obviously I surround myself with people that, if you look at my Facebook feed or my Instagram feed, it's only from people that I want more of that message, right? So there's no, I'm not like, I don't follow anything if it's not in my lane of what I'm trying to achieve, right? Yeah. And so obviously I follow you, and tell me about that morning routine that you think is really crucial to, and everybody says it, but why is it crucial? And then what is the routine that they should be following? Yeah.
I think, to expand on your point about social media, I only want to see the content on my news feed and from movers and shakers and people that have influenced me. And I think, I joke with my wife about this. I think Twitter might be my most favorite platform because somebody can follow me and I don't have to follow them back if they're spewing around negativity. Where, Twitter, I truly get to control what I'm following. Everything, so the morning routine, and I link that, all my social media handles are at Johnny Quinn USA. And if you want to go to my website, johnnyquinnusa.com/mymorning. And what that'll do is it'll give you a snapshot into my morning routine. And so my morning routine, typically lasts about 30-ish minutes. I do a reading that I follow. I read one of Zig Ziglar's self-help cards, and I got that all kind of laid out there. And I used to, now watch how I pivoted here, Chad. I used to have my workout tied to my morning routine. And so I do that, and then I get my workout in before anybody got up. When quarantine 2020 hit, right, and we're all at our house now, I pivoted and I moved my workout to later in the day because I'm at home all day long. And I'm now giving myself 1 extra hour of sleep. And once we get back to normal and things are, I'll move my workout back. But the thing about a morning routine, and I want to make sure every listener gets this, keep it simple and keep it consistent. Especially if you've never dabbled in the morning routine space, you'll beat yourself down if you try to load it with 10 things. I've got 3. And I've been doing a morning routine for years. So I keep it simple, keep it consistent. Don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. Just don't miss 2.
Don't. I love that. Don't miss 2. Right? Force yourself the next day to get up and go. Yeah. And what do you think the outcome of that is? So getting that morning routine. How does it, and why does that set you up for the rest of the day?
Well, it influences the direction of my day. And so on the property and casualty side, our phones start ringing at 8 a.m. If I am up, alert, active, I've got positive influences that have, trickled into my mindset, I am going to be better on the phone. I have no choice. It's almost, Chad, like a fail proof that it's setting me up to be ready to engage customers the way they need to be engaged, creating a wonderful customer experience. And in reality, isn't that kind of what we all want to do in life? Have a great customer experience with our clients, at home with our spouses, with our children. We want to be present and available. And when you have a healthy morning routine, it's not flawless, but by golly, it really sets the tone for the day.
Yeah, I love that. So how do you, let me ask you a question. So right now, what are you doing to see the end? Like, what are you preparing for now? So when you said earlier, hey, I was hurt and I was preparing for unexpected opportunities is what you said, right?
Yeah.
What are you preparing for now? Does that stop? Now you own your own business. Do you still prepare for just what you're doing now, or do you still open yourself up to new opportunities that come along? Obviously, you own 2 businesses, you wrote a book, so your card is full. But at some point, do you stop preparing and just start maintaining, or are you always preparing?
So short answer to that, you're always preparing. You have to be. And I learned this in sport. The minute you get complacent, somebody's coming from right behind you. And so here's how I goal set it when I was in sport, and I carry the same thing into business. I have these, when I was in high school, right, and I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet, me having a goal of going to the NFL as a pipsqueak, as an 11th grader in high school, right, Chad, that is an audacious goal. And it's important that we have these giant dreams, these audacious goals. But I also had short ones along the way. Like, watch this. I want to be a starter on the high school varsity team in 10th grade. That's a short-term goal. Or when I got to college, I still want to go to the NFL. I'm still, a ways away from this, but I want to, make the travel roster as a redshirt freshman. And so now that I'm in business, and let's take speaking for an example. I was with Lockheed Martin earlier this year. It was my first keynote I kicked off. We did a 2020 vision. I spoke to 5,000 people. It was the most that I've spoke to in one day before. My audacious goal is I want to speak to a stadium full of people of 25,000. Right? I'm not there yet. That's okay, but I have this giant goal. What helps me along the way, Chad, is I've got these smaller goals to help me get there. And see, as I look at these big goals like the men and women who have the opportunity to speak in front of 25,000 people in one day, they have a book out. They have an online course. They have a suite of things. And so what it does is it helps me break down the path that I need to get there. And so I'm always looking for opportunities and what is going to move me along that path. That's what keeps me going in the day to day.
I love that. That's really, really good. I think sometimes people set that big audacious goal, but they don't backfill it to say, what are the little steps I need to do along the way to if I continue to follow them, eventually I'm going to hit that big term goal. And again, I literally wrote it down. I have this whiteboard desk. I've been taking notes. So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm taking notes. But one of the things I wrote, I love the unexpected opportunities and be preparing for them. Yeah. I think a lot of times, we set these big goals and then we don't set these little goals. And all of a sudden we say, well, I never got the opportunity for that big goal. So, you say, I have this goal to speak for a stadium for people, and you're like sitting and waiting. Oh, that opportunity never came. Well, because you didn't put yourself in position for it to come. Would that be accurate?
Right. Here's a good self-diagnostic question to ask. And I think I got this I hope I'm giving everybody the right credits here. I think I got this from Dave Ramsey. And he said it like this: what has to be true today for your goal tomorrow to be possible? And so let's take something like, a lot of people have the goal and dream of writing a book. That's, if you've never done that before, and until I did my first one, that is a big goal. It's a hairy, nasty, audacious goal, and I love it. So if let's use that as an example, Chad. If that's the big goal, then and you're asking yourself, okay, what has to be true today for that to happen tomorrow? Then I need to block out 10 to 15 minutes of my day today to write one page. And then tomorrow I need to do the same thing. And then the next day I need to do the same thing. And what you're going to see is when you look back on the last month, you're going to realize I've got 30 pages closer to my book. Now, is it anywhere close to where it needs to be? Absolutely not. You're going to need an editor to rip that thing apart. Then that's not a problem. That's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking is you are taking these small increment steps down the path that you want to go. And so I ask this question to myself all the time. What do I have to do today? What has to be true today? Is there a course that I need to take? Is there somebody that I need to reach out to? Do I need to make 10 more sales calls than I normally do? What has to be true today? And when you do that, Chad, what happens is it kind of weeds out all the excuses.
Yeah, right.
Because at the end of the day, you start to know what you need to do, and it weeds out the excuses.
Yeah, liberates you, right?
It does.
It completely liberates you from being the victim in I can't do this. I can't. No, just what needs to be true. I wrote that down. Perfect. All right. So I have a couple more questions. I know those of you who jumped on time and we were late. We had some technical issues. So, but I still want to be respectful of your time. I think one of the things that we talked about that you NFL football player, Olympian, author, best-selling author, a business owner, but we also talked about the fact that you're a father.
Yeah.
Right? A 1.5-year-old little girl. And so let me ask you a question. What did you learn as an Olympian, as a former NFL player, as a business owner that has helped you in that first year and a half of being a new father?
Patience. One word, patience, right? Here's the thing. When and her name's Amelia, and when she was born, the instant amount of love that you have for your child is just unreal. Walking in opening ceremonies couldn't compare to that. Having my first catch on Monday Night Football doesn't even compare to that. And so if you're a parent here, wow, when you have a child, you will literally do anything for your child. Here's where I needed a healthy diagnostic. And I got this from Dale Partridge. He's a speaker writer out of Bend, Oregon. And I remember he posted this. And this quote just runs through my head all the time. And it goes like this: success at work without success at home isn't really success at all. And it kind of knocked me off because I'm a type A extrovert. I'm very motivated. I'm very disciplined. Once we set a goal, I see the path. Let's go after it. But if all I'm concerned with is writing books, speaking on the stage, running my property and casualty business, what's next for me in the business, and I'm not available at home, Chad, I didn't win. Yeah. I'm not a winner. And I come from a background in sport where I understand what it takes to win. And so having a family has really recalibrated my career and what opportunities I say yes to on, I want to win at both. I want to skyrocket my income. I want to build incredible businesses, and I want to be a present father and husband. And so the question I should be asking, I ask this every day, is, can I do that? And so here's what I do. I go out and seek and find mentors, men and women who are further down the road than I am, who have a successful marriage and have kids that want to be around them who are older than my 1.5-year-old daughter. And I watch and I listen and I read and I subscribe to their blog. And anytime they post anything, I consume it because that's what I want in my life. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, really good sense. And so the follow-up question that would be then, so how do you find those mentors, and how do you approach those mentors? Like, what do you do for those people? I think right now there's so much. I had a guy on the other day, Jordan Harbinger, and I asked him, I said, how do you know who to follow and who not to follow? Because you're being inundated if you're on social media, if you're being inundated with with influencers, quote unquote influencers. And I'm not even a big fan of that word, but influencers. How do you know who to follow, and do you approach them? What do you do to get a mentor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we've got to get out of this phase of, do I need to go ask somebody to be my mentor, and I need to sit down with them once a week for coffee? Listen, in 2020, where we live in the power of technology, it gets rid of the excuse of, well, I don't know anybody. When we're talking about online influence and mentors, there are there are 3 that I consume a lot of their content, and I've met one of them in person. And I'll take a page out of Stephen Covey's playbook, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I talked about this in one of my social media posts a couple of days ago, is that here's how we evaluate, is this somebody healthy for me to follow online or however we're going to consume their content, book, whatever, podcast, is first, I need to pause between the stimulus and the response. If you jump on your phone on Instagram or whatever platform you're on, you're just going to see highlight reel after highlight reel. When you pause and you become what I call a fruit inspector, where you evaluate the fruits of somebody's labor, it's going to be very clear as you take some time to evaluate, is that somebody I want speaking into my life? Right? Is that somebody that they've got the track record? And again, I shared mine. I need to see success in business and I need to see success at home. That's who I'm looking for. And if I just see it in one category, I have to tread lightly. And so I think it's individually, we got to build up our own diagnostic system of, okay, do I even have clarity on who I want speaking into my life? And then when I do, let me evaluate the fruits of their labor and see, do they come with a lot of chaos and train wreckage? Because if they do, that's going to show up in my life. And so that's how I evaluate.
I love it. Who are the three?
Yeah, Bob Goff, which I've had a chance to spend time with.
Love Bob Goff.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
If you haven't read his book,
Love Does and Everybody Always.
Does.
Yeah, they
so
are
good. Two of my favorite books.
Yeah,
sorry,
spot on. So Bob Goff, that's the one who I've met in person, and we've got a friendship. And then the other two guys who I've had a little bit of online dialogue with, but John Acuff out of Nashville and Michael Hyatt out of Nashville.
Love Michael Hyatt.
Right,
Michael Hyatt wrote a great book.
He's written he actually just came out with one yesterday. He's written like 7.
Yeah, I can't remember the one that I read that I really love. But yeah, Michael Hyatt's a great guy. All right, so I know I said a few questions ago, but let me ask you.
You're good.
So in this time of quarantine, what are you taking away from this? So in every, you said earlier, and I had a guy, Marcus Aurelius Anderson, on a couple weeks ago, and he said in every adversity there's opportunity. And so what's the opportunity in this adversity? One, do you subscribe to that there's opportunity in adversity? And what's the opportunity here?
Right. So yes, I do subscribe to that. And what we're going to see, I can't wait till we get out of this, because there are going to be men and women who have created some unbelievable things during this push, right, that we're feeling right now with life, kind of being changed, in this temporary new normal. So yes, there's going to be opportunity through adversity. I see this as a time for us to kind of pause. Right? We can have dinner, around the table more than once a week. I also see this from a business standpoint as an ability to lean up. And if you're familiar with, the lean culture, the Six Sigma a little bit, when we talk about a lean culture, it's two things. It's continuous improvement plus elimination of waste. Chad, this is a great time for us to evaluate our business processes. Look at some subscriptions that we've had that we haven't used for years, but are still pulling out of our account. I mean, right. So I think this is a great time for us to lean up business wise. And watch this. When you do that, when you continuously improve and you eliminate waste in your business, here's what happens. It transfers the value to your customer. And isn't that what you want? Yeah. Right at the end of the day, to whatever your end customer is, to transfer that kind of value. So during quarantine 2020, what I'm seeing and what more my focus is continuous improvement and really the elimination of waste, because it's given all of us time. And so when you get out of here, I hesitate to say this, when we get out of this, if you haven't acquired a new skill or at least evaluated your processes, it wasn't lack of time for you. It was lack of discipline. That's what it was.
Love that. You're never going to be able to say I didn't have time.
Come on. Yeah. That's one thing everybody has right now.
A ton of it. And I think, Dave Hollis said it the other day. Dave Hollis said, he said, use this time to make sure the things that you go back to are the things you want to go back to, something to that extent, right? So what's great about this, I'm an enthusiastic optimist, and what I'd love about this time right now, there's a lot of things that have changed for us. I'm saying we're doing family walks every night that we've never done before. We're doing a lot of things different that we've never done before. But one of the things I think is really important is that chaos and adversity, it levels the playing field. Like everybody gets to reset their zeros right now.
Right.
Like nobody's going to remember who you were, what you did pre-COVID, right?
Right.
So it's like you get to go into this isolation chamber, your house, and you get to become whoever you want to become. And you can say, I changed because of this. I did, I found whatever in that time. Right. To me, it's like a fresh start for everybody. Everybody gets a fresh start coming out of this thing. And I think that you just have to open your eyes to seeing it. Okay. So final two questions, actually final three questions. First question is, can you tell me real quick, how you decided you were going to go viral because of beating the heck out of a bathroom door? I'm saying, is that a story we can share? Because it seems almost like you were being punked or something.
Right. And that's what I thought at first, in the Olympic Village. It was so interesting. When you break down a door in the Olympics, I had no idea it would create so much excitement. I think that the timing of the Olympics, the media exposure, that definitely assisted in that. Leading up to the Olympics, there was some talk on, the Olympic Games in Sochi, Russia not being ready, shoddy construction. So all that narrative fed into when I broke the door down. But Chad, had I have known, I would have kept some in the door. I just didn't know, right? I mean,
so tell our listeners what exactly happened.
Yeah, I was in the Olympic Village. It was after opening ceremonies, and I ended up breaking down this door in the Olympic Village because I needed to get out, and it was in the Olympic Village bathroom. So I took a picture, I put it on social media, and I think the BBC took it first. They spit it over to Yahoo, but in 24 hours, it got retweeted by 28,000 people, seen by an estimated 10 million people around the world. Just crazy.
It's crazy. So you're locked in a bathroom and you're like, I'm getting it.
I got to get out. Yeah. I was in there for an hour. It was time to go, So.
I envision I'm going to miss my bobsledding debut because I'm locked in the bathroom and I'm going to break through the door. Well, if you haven't seen, if people hadn't heard that story, they want to see the picture, just go to your website. I think it's on your website.
It's on my website. Yeah.
It is literally, you went through the center of this door.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Hysterical. All right. So where do people find you?
Yeah.
Where do people connect with you? How do people, there's no doubt that people are going to want to connect with you. Obviously we're doing this Facebook Live, but then we'll post it on our iTunes podcast where everything gets posted and all of our podcast platforms. But where do they find you? Where do they connect with you?
Yeah. All social media platforms. I am at Johnny Quinn USA, and then my website, johnnyquinnusa.com. And if you want to see some of the video content we're posting during this COVID quarantine, I put together Mind Gyms, MINDGYM, Mind Gyms, to help protect your mindset. So that's at my website, johnnyquinnusa.com/Mind Gym, and it'll just spit you all the short videos that I've done to help you, help your family protect their mindset during quarantine 2020.
I love that. And what I love about your website, and again, if you just Google Johnny Quinn, you're going to find a ton of videos. But what's great is you can watch your videos and then buy your book, get your book pushed, because the book is a compliment to the talks you give, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it's like the extended version of the talks you give. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. And so I wrote this book in a way that you can, if you're a book reader like I am, you can read it from page 1 all the way to the end. Or here's the cool thing about my book, Chad. If you're not a big reader, you can actually, and I got this from another book I read, I thought it was so cool. You can jump around, meaning you can go to an individual chapter and say, okay, what did Johnny learn in Green Bay, or what did Johnny learn at the Olympic trials, and take that wisdom from that section. And so it gives you a chance to jump around if you're not a big reader, prefer to do it that way. But what it does is the book's name, Push, Breaking Through the Barriers. It helps you identify barriers in your life that could be invisible, that are potentially holding you back, and how do you identify them, and how do you break through them? So Chad's right. You can go to my website, and if you purchase it through my website, then what's cool is that it actually comes to me directly, which means I get to autograph your copy, so you get an autograph copy of my book.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. So takeaways from this, there's again, my table is full here, but
good.
Morning routines,
Yes.
Be prepared for the unexpected opportunities. Make sure if you haven't watched Cool Runnings, you watch Cool
Excellent takeaway.
Right? Make sure you watch Cool Runnings. And then I'm excited to subscribe to my gyms and go to your website and take that. So fantastic. All right. Last question. First of all, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being so patient in the technical difficulties. Morgan, our director of operations, and Evan, our media specialist. Of course, they're working remotely, so they leave me here with a computer, and I'm not that guy. So I'm like hitting buttons. I'm sure they had it set up perfect, and I totally ruined it. But thanks for being so flexible and pivoting to Zoom live, which seems to be working well. Yeah. It'd be a shame if this thing wasn't live right now.
Right.
We have to re-record the whole thing.
I know it.
So I guess we'll find out when we get off. All right, last question. When you leave this earth 50, 60 years from now, what do you want your contribution to have been?
Yeah, I want people to look back and they're going to see that I became a U.S. Olympian, that I played in the NFL, and that I've run some great businesses, but I want them to see that I was a present father and husband. And that's what really drives me, is that you can have success at work, but you can also have success at home. And I want that to embody my career and my lifetime.
I love that. I think that's why we relate so well, because I think that's my biggest key for me too is success and fulfillment in all areas of my life.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of appreciation for you and for that mindset. Thanks for coming on, Johnny. I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and definitely have to have you back on again.
Absolutely.
Post COVID when we can do it actually live and in person. So Thanks, brother.
All right. Thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me. See you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cannonball Mindset. If you found this episode useful, please go to iTunes right now and rate and review. This way we can get more guests on to help you on your way towards mastery. Remember, everything you have to be great is already within you. You just got to go do the work.
Hold your company accountable to its greatness. Consistent coaching calls and training tools equip your team to continually refocus on their why as they study and implement today's top sales strategies. The result? Transformation across your company culture and steady incremental increases in revenue until record-breaking numbers become the norm. To learn more, visit cannonballmindset.com.
You've been listening to Cannonball Mindset. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.